Vivian Joy here for another Natter That Matters, and today I have the lovely, Kate Baker, or Catherine as you are in the on the Facebook groups, Kate Baker from Jargon-free GDPR. Well, I know your business is called Virtual Go-To, but in my head you are Jargon-free GDPR because, of course, that is what you do. Thank you for joining me from Egypt today, here in the virtual world. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. Yes, it's great to be here.
Sounds like it's really summery and lovely where you are. All birds.
You can hear all the birds, can't you? I know they're not very well behaved. I'm sorry.
Oh, so thank you for being here with me. And I know that what you do is what most of us dread and hate and just go, oh no, I know I need to do something about that. I know there's a whole load of rules. I know there's a stuff I should implement. I know that actually it's good for my own protection and for the protection of the people I'm keeping data for. And then we all just go, oh, we'll put it on the list and we'll go and find a training. And then I have to say that when GDPR first became a thing, which now it was a long time ago now, was it about 5 years ago?
Nearly 4 years, 2018, yeah.
2018. And I went on a training. It was a half day. I think it was about 50 quid. And I made loads of notes. And then what did I do? Nothing. So I'm assuming that this is normal in your world. So tell me about your background, Kate. So how do you love this stuff? Why this stuff? Like, I'm like, ooh.
It's not so much that I actually love this sort of stuff because it's really dry. But I do love helping people to understand it for their business. It's like tax, isn't it? We've got to understand at least something about it, a little bit about accounting and so on. Otherwise, we can't run our businesses. And with GDPR, the risks can be absolutely huge for small businesses. But on the other hand, it seems so terrifying as a subject. I really like to debunk all that and make it really simple, and all based around what you need for your business, rather than, we could have a gilded cage full of GDPR wonderfulness. It's just making sure that it works for you and your business, because if it doesn't, you're not going to do it. There's no way. Who's got time to learn a completely different skill set when it's not really their business? It's supporting, so you need to understand.
Years ago, I used to work for an HR consultancy, and the things that changed within that world that were kind of legal updates that they used to send out to their clients. And I was like, I set up their recruitment division. I was like, I am never going to need to know any of that. And I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I just want to know I'm not breaking the law. I'm not going to get sued. I'm not going to upset anybody or anything. The contracts are all as they should be. And I think it's about getting it in place, but it just feels like a massive job to some of us because we don't know. So I know that you've been working hard, coming from a corporate background where you've worked with big companies, to actually make it understandable and like jargon free, which is obviously a great name.
Yeah.
Bite size. So why do you think we're all scared of it? Because we are definitely, and I don't think I'm alone. And if you're watching or listening to this and you don't feel scared of it, then well done. You've obviously kind of learnt it from somewhere, because it's a big thing, isn't it? It's a lot to learn.
Yes, it is. I think the start of it for a lot of people was just running up to when it all came into force, sort of 2017 running into 2018. And then it was so much in the news, and it was full of the horror stories, and everything pretty much that you see in the news tends to revolve about, oh, Google's being fined £50 million, and it's all these massive figures that are coming out, which works in one way to make you nervous, and in the other way to think, well, I'm not Google, I'm not a big company, it doesn't really apply to me. And so there's a bit of a conflict there. It's the worry that, well, maybe I ought to be doing something. And then on the other hand, well, if I don't do anything, I'm not going to get caught out. But the risk is there. So yeah,
Hey, what are the risks? I know I put you in touch with a woman I met on a retreat who had a brilliant health and wellness business that she'd kind of built during lockdown, kind of almost accidentally. And I said to her about her GDPR. I said, how do you collect the data of these people? And she said, oh no, it doesn't apply to me. And so I know you've been speaking to her. So what are the risks? What are the penalties, if you like? What could go wrong for small businesses? I mean, and these are businesses from any turnover, aren't they? This isn't, you have to have a six-figure or
yeah. I mean, because the fines are based on a percentage of your annual turnover, which is why you see these massive figures for the really big companies. But the point is, for smaller companies, okay, the figure itself might be smaller, but it's huge if it's taken off the top of your gross profits. I mean, it's absolutely massive. It could be enough to wipe out a small business. But for me, that isn't actually the most risky thing. It's all the effort that you put into building your brand and getting your image out there. And you have something like a complaint to the ICO by somebody saying that you haven't looked after their data, and it gets into the news for any reason, or into just your circle, and your brand is destroyed. And that actually can be far more far-reaching than the money, because you might have cash reserves so you can pay the fine. How are you going to repair the damage to your brand? What about your customer service, your clients? You owe them ethically a duty of care to take care of the information that they've shared with you, because information is so valuable that you need to make sure that you're looking after them, and it's part and parcel of what you do for your clients and your customers. I mean, obviously that's not just the only sort of data that you hold, because anybody that you work with, employees or freelancers or contractors, you're going to have their information. You're going to have information from the people who you use as your supplier, their contact details. So all of this is the sort of data that you're going to be holding on to and looking after. And I mean, for me, it's very strongly a matter of ethics more than anything else.
I think when it all became like, there was all of a sudden everybody who you're on the email list sent an email saying, oh, I basically, can you resubscribe? Because basically I'm in the shit because I probably got you off a list from, I don't know, the back of Beyond. But I think a lot of it was focused around how you captured data, not how you stored or used or deleted. I think so. A lot of people don't understand the GDPR, and I'm sure there's more to it than that than I'm even talking about. But actually, a lot of it, because the capture part is what everyone sees. So if you're seen to be doing the right thing, then people would assume, which it really isn't the case at all. And it's interesting because you are wearing off on me, Kate. So every time I have a conversation with you, I think, oh shit, I think I'm doing that. I need to go and check. Like, and I went to, Emma and I've been looking at houses, thinking of kind of moving, and every letting agent has a very different way of collating data. One actually asked if it was okay to keep our data, which I thought, whoa, you'd have been like high-fiving them. What they do with it after that, I don't know. But we went to see one yesterday, and my details and everyone else's details were written on a sheet, and she asked me to sign the sheet. I nearly passed out. I went, you do know I can see the data, like all of it, their name, their address, their phone number, their email address. They clearly got very manual systems. They're a beautiful little, they were lovely, clearly got no idea. And I was like, wow, like we've still got that going on. And I remember years ago, I used to work for a hair and beauty wholesaler. And even then I used to think that's not right. They had regular customers, like hair salons that used to come in and buy all their hair colors and, bleach. And they had on Post-it notes, like we have all around our computer, don't we, most of us, the credit card details of all their key customers, so that when someone rang up, they didn't have to take it again. They used to choose, but you do know someone could just come and rip all those Post-it notes across there, and they've got a beautiful, they could just go and order what they like from anywhere. So I think there's always been these, writing in the back of books, hairdressers on the back of cards. I know one of my hairdressers used to have a long time ago, my credit card detail on the back of the card where my colour was there, and all that. So there's loads and loads. I think it comes from every business, doesn't it? Right down to...
Yes. I mean, the data protection has been in law now for decades. I mean, GDPR was just how it was put all together and defined in Europe. And I mean, obviously the UK was involved in all of that definition. It's not something that was inflicted on us. But I mean, we've had data protection laws for a long, long time. I mean, I used to work in a bank when I lived in the UK for many years, and we had to be very, very careful about confidentiality and obviously complying with the data protection laws as they were. But I mean, all of us, you only have to think, if you've got somebody saying, oh, can you let me have so and so's telephone number? Would you do that without asking the person if it was okay?
Yeah.
And I mean, it really is that fundamental. It's just treating other people's data the way that you would like yours to be treated, because it's yours. It's nobody else's. Just because you share it with somebody, it doesn't magically become theirs to do with as they want. Although there are organisations that do that, and we won't mention.
Obviously, these laws would go to further reaching countries, because I still get those emails from, I'm assuming, India, or I don't know where they're coming from, where there's no way of, and I send a message with massive letters saying, do not message me again, I unsubscribe, like, and of course you get another one. And
I mean, strangely enough, you mentioned India, but they've got a data protection law coming in, and theirs is going to be quite tough. I mean, how they'll apply it is another thing, because Egypt's data protection, equivalent of GDPR, very, very similar. I think they just cut and pasted a lot of it, literally. Came in last October.
That's the privacy policy. Oh, I copied it from so-and-so.
Yeah. So they did the same with the law. But that came in last October. But I know with absolute certainty that majority of the population aren't even aware of it at all, and just will not think it applies to them at all. For example, if you go to the doctor will tell you what's wrong with you in front of the waiting room full of people.
Wow.
No problems. You can take anybody in with you. I mean, normally it's like a party when they go in to see the doctors. There'll be at least 4 people. And they discuss everything in graphic detail. There's no confidentiality at all.
It's not funny, is it? But I suppose it's just it's norm. It's the normal, isn't it?
It is. And I mean, Egypt's not the only country at all. And the penalties for getting things wrong in Egypt include jail sentences. So I mean, as always, it's always really tough here. But then people just don't take any notice. I mean, you should come and drive here.
Oh, goodness. It's fun enough in Norfolk. I don't know. None of them got anywhere to go. I swear to God, I'm just like spent my whole time having road rage, going, "Come on, there's a headlock right." No, I don't think I'd fare well there. No, definitely. Or Italy. No, they don't drive well. But sorry, anybody that's from those countries, I'm sure you're fabulous. It's just all the others. But yeah. So really interesting thing to do. And I know that you have created online trainings, because I know that when I've tried to do anything like this, I get a bit confused and menobrain as well. So menopause, and I just kind of start to go, oh God, and then kind of get left behind. So I know that you've got online programs that people can work through at their own pace, because of course we've all got different businesses, and at some stage you need more, don't you? You need to take more time, whereas because we're all doing it in different ways. Like I've got big lists, whereas some people have got smaller lists but maybe more data. Like I don't have addresses of people unless I've sent them a physical product typically, whereas somebody might have a business where they're selling t-shirts and they've probably got different data, so they would take more notice on that part. So and I know also that you run group sessions. So so what's the thing that gets asked the most? I'm just curious. Obviously I coach business owners all day. What's the thing?
Well, I find that the thing that most people have heard of and are concerned about and think is the be all and end all is their privacy notice.
Yes, me too, including me.
And it is true. It is really important, because it's the one thing that everybody's got to have that is visible by the world if you're on the internet and you haven't done any geo-blocking. And it's basically your promise to the people whose data that you collect already or want to collect, of what you will do with their data. So it lays it all out for them. Everything from your contact details, right down to how they can withdraw consent, to what suppliers you use that transfer their data to other countries, so that it really is, as I say, you promise for what you're going to do, and basically once it's in there, that's what you should be doing.
Different terms and conditions, because I think there's lots of confusion as to
completely separate. Yes, don't ever combine. Don't combine them. Nothing like.
I had a recruitment agency and we had them combined, but they were physical printed off, so I think we probably got away with it. But yeah, so that's a different thing. That's about your service provision, isn't it, and the sale.
Yes, I mean, if you've got any returns or refunds policy or anything like that, is your terms and conditions. but your privacy notice is all about the data that the personal data that you deal with, because GDPR only covers personal data. But do look out, because in the coming years they will be moving over to cover business data as well.
Oh, I
Don't
see.
know how that's going to look.
I could keep the data of ABC Limited. Don't even know. I use it as an excuse. There's always probably an ABC Limited somewhere. Sorry, I keep using you as an example. But I can keep their data, like I can keep their switchboard phone number and their address and their
all of the generic stuff that doesn't personally identify an individual is fine. It doesn't fall under GDPR at all. But any personal data, and it doesn't have to be just one thing. It doesn't have to be like somebody's name. It could be their position in a particular company where there's only one person with that position, because it personally identifies them. So, and things like digital, like your IP address can be an identifier. If you've got a photograph and you're standing and your car's there and it's got your license number on, then there is a way that could be linked to you. Or if you're standing in front of your house and there's a really identifiable landmark nearby, obviously there's you as the person by there, and you then have identified that person. So it's really quite complicated, but for majority of small businesses like ours, it comes down to things that are much less complicated than that.
And the question that freaked me out is when I was talking to you about emails, and I said proudly, having had recruitment businesses, and actually there's definitely confusion around accounts, because accounts, you have to keep stuff, especially as a limited company, for a certain amount of years.
Yeah, but you're
many of us have to keep everything. So I remember proudly saying, I keep all the emails going back to however long, and you just said, and what are you doing with that data? I remember thinking, I just went a bit cold, thinking, well, I'm not doing anything. It's just there to evidence. Like in recruitment, we had to evidence the communications and the agreements. And so I would have had a purpose for keeping that data. Whereas actually, if someone emails me and says, I want to join your program, there's probably no need for me to keep that at all.
I mean, as a rule of thumb, only keep the data that you actually need. Because anything else is just making your risk footprint that much bigger. And the whole idea for a business is to keep your risk as low as possible. So all you need to think about is, whatever the data is, if somebody asked you, why have you got that? What would you say?
Well, because I thought I had to, I suppose. I know that is a bit like, if you do something wrong in your accounting, you are actually responsible regardless. So, not knowing is not right. It's not enough, is it? It's not the answer. Oh, I didn't know that. Slap on the wrist. We could talk about this forever, because I know every time I have a conversation, once again, I'm like, oh, I need to go and check that. It makes me think, oh shit. And I look back at some of the CRM, customer retention management systems I've had in the past, where exactly like that. So you'd have the master copy of the company and then all the different managers. So I used to recruit for the sales manager, the marketing manager, and I would have had all put their email addresses within the company, and sometimes their mobile phone numbers, sometimes their home phone numbers, because they would work from all over. And I look back and think, thank God I haven't got that business anymore. That would have been, so I'd have had to have got permission from each one of those to keep that data, would I? How would that have worked?
No, I mean, if they've come to you, for instance, with an inquiry about business, or they've actually done business with you, then you're okay to have that information. They are actually a client of yours. You can actually send them marketing information out as well, which is almost a different subject all on its own, because that isn't covered by, it is covered by GDPR from the point of view of personal data, but it's actually the privacy and electronic communications regulation that falls under. And I have to say, don't panic, really, don't panic. That most of the fines that have been levied have been because people have broken those regulations, not GDPR, like nuisance calls, phoning people who are on the telephone preference.
Most small business owners who are just starting out, and I know because that's mainly who are in my academy, they don't even know that exists. So they're just randomly ringing companies.
Yeah,
I'm like,
absolutely.
You can't do that. No, I know, it's a big deal. Yeah.
I know. Somebody that a friend of mine, she does social media and stuff for people, and she was saying that she's got a client who she's actually thinking she's going to drop because they want to basically just drag in emails, either find them online or buy in lists and basically spam people. That's what it amounts to. And she's tried her best to explain. So I've done her a little explanation so she can tell them why that's not a good idea aside from the business practice. She says their deliverability is going down the pan. It's absolutely terrible because of what they're doing. But she says,
yeah, one thing is the way you do everything, isn't it? So if you don't,
absolutely. So she's seriously considering not working with them anymore, and that's not unusual. There's a group that I'm in of data protection professionals, like a chat group, which is brilliant. And there's some of the stories that come out are horrendous, and even after like nearly 4 years, and some of these are much bigger businesses or organisations, and they still want to do things that, I mean, like I said earlier on, it's not a question of just being against the law. It's bad business, highly unethical, and bottom line, stupid, because you're going to alienate so many people.
I'm laughing at how passionate you get. You're as passionate about this as I am mindset, like helping people get their stuff and move it and shake it and get rid of it. Like you can really, like I can really feel it. Like you're like, no, like you're the campaigner, aren't you, for these things? Oh, okay, we could have this conversation all day long. We really could, because it's such a big subject. So if people that are listening to, watching this, or on replay or however they're doing so, and they're thinking, oh shit, which is probably what's going to happen. Some of them be going, oh shit, I definitely need to have a look at that. Or I'm not, even though they've looked at it, I'm not quite sure if I did it right or I wasn't advised correctly, because like any industry, there's crap advisors, aren't there? There's dodgy people out there. How can they get in touch with you? What's the first step? How do they get into your world?
The best thing to do is to join my jargon-free GDPR Facebook group. Because I'm checking that all the time, like loads of us do, and I mean I can help with answers. And then if it's something more detailed, something that shouldn't be in the public domain, then I've got things like my instant GDPR, which is an hour-long session, and basically you can ask me all the questions that you need to. You can show me stuff that you're worried about, and you will end up with a series of actions that you can take afterwards to sort out what's wrong with you.
It does what it says on the tin. Very nice. Like
it does. And then my other, which is a shorter session, which is my 30-minute solution, that tends to be where you've got a particular problem that you need to work through, maybe in finer detail. And again, you'll get a recording of it because we'll do it on Zoom, but you'll also end up with a series of actions that you can take to solve your problem, and then you can come back to me again if you want to, and then ultimately you'll have solved your own problem because it will fit your business.
An overview of this is what I'm doing, this is how I've got it, like a bit of an assessment almost, and a kind of instant fix. And the other one is, actually this definitely needs some work, and it's like a deeper dive. So they're the two kind of ways they can.
I'm actually working on a DIY module at the moment, which will allow you to look at your business under various headings to see what you've got and what you ought to have. So that again, you've got a much more detailed plan that you can work on according to your own time scale. I'm not holding you to our time scale. And then if you want to some more help, like in a group session, then that's available. And then obviously there's the one-to-ones if there's something that needs to be drilled down, so that whatever you've got, you can solve it. Ultimately, what GDPR is a set of, not exactly standards, but it's various things that you have to achieve, that you should have in your business. It isn't a series of, you've got to do it this way, you must use this, you must have it done in this time scale. You set all of that. So you decide what tools you like. They can be the ones you're already using, it's just how you use them to achieve the same. And all you've got to remember is whatever you do, you need to have a record of it, because even if you've done the most wonderful GDPR organisation possible, if you don't have any written records of it, it doesn't matter. because if anything goes wrong, and heaven help us it doesn't, but if it does, that's what they're going to ask for. And there are certain documents that they always ask for first off. And all of these that you've got, it's not a case of having them just to use if something goes wrong. They're not just an insurance policy. They're all working documents to make things more streamlined in your business, so that as your business grows, if you take people on, you've actually got these things that they can work with, like having your policies or how things are done. Write it down, because then if somebody joins you, you can share that document with them, and it saves you keep boiling your cabbages, as my grandma would say, and it also means that everybody's doing things the same way, and it also helps people like me who redesign things in their head. If they haven't got it written down how it's already done, the number of times that I've thought, oh, I must do that, and I'll make myself some notes, and then I'll come across something, because my filing system, I'm terrible. I have files inside of folders inside of folders, it's like, you know, and so I'll lose things, and I'll suddenly come across something, I'll think, hang on a minute, I've already done this, and I'll probably have come up with the same ideas, but that is my thing.
I actually launched things that I probably created 3 or 4 years ago, and I find it, and I've decided again, I thought, that's a great idea. Why haven't I done that before? I'm like, I know you kind of nearly did. Timing, I think, changes things. But it's been absolutely lovely to have you with us here today, Kate. And I do recommend that you reach out and have a chat with Kate, join a group and learn, even just watch on the sidelines if you're a bit scared to admit you're not doing it right, because you're probably not. And then Kate obviously is your person, very straight talking, and obviously online, it's all online, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. As with
come along, I do a free workshop on the first Wednesday of every month, so for members of the group, so join the group, just drop in. If you don't want to say anything, you don't have to. You're not going to be put on the line, but if it does raise things in your business specifically, then we can deal with them there and then, so you're very welcome. Do come along.
Wonderful. I shall be there. Thank you very much, Kate. It's been lovely to have you with us, and I look forward to having you on again. Bye.
Bye.